That is. So, new person starting out, me.
Yeah.
You're now doing photography. You have here that you've been self-taught for most of what you've done, and you've been researching and studying and going through. You have your lens, you've gone the distance, you've bought this bigger lens, you've got your, whatever camera you've invested in. It's been a couple $1,000s there, and then you're flying every day on automatic focus because you don't know what all the buttons and dials and everything and all those things are for. So if you were going to say first steps, I know there's experiment and there's experiential things you need to do, and I know there's some learning that you need to do in terms of what the aperture is and all those other things. But what would be maybe 1, 2, 3, first 3 steps to kind of get you off the autofocus and get you into?
Well, from what I usually try and tell people is to estimate what your shutter speed is first.
Okay.
So whether something is still or something is moving.
Right.
If something is still, you can have a low shutter speed, like between 300 and 400, 500. If you've got something that, like a bird, for instance, that you're planning on shooting, like an owl who is, taking off in flight, you'd want it more at, between 1,000 to 5,000, depending on how crisp you want the wings to look. Some people, like hummingbirds, for instance, like a little bit of blur to their wings, so it gives a photo movement of some kind.
And then the body is focused.
Yeah, the eye is focused, yeah. And that's the most important part, is to get the eye in focus.
Right.
So when you're, for birds, for instance, as long as you've got that eye in focus, sometimes the feathers will follow, and other times they'll be a little bit blurry. If they're in movement, then, whatever. But so it all depends on what sort of state your shutter speed is. So if you've got a low shutter speed because you're picturing, I don't know, something like a duck just sitting on water, so you want to take a picture of that, so you could do maybe like 400, 500 shutter speed. Then the rest of it is sort of how close you are to the bird, how far away you are from the bird. So if you're far away, you're going to have to zoom in all the way.
Yep.
And that's going to use your maximum aperture. Usually it's 6.3 for this guy.
Okay.
And then you're going to get your depth of field after that. So the other thing is your ISO. So your ISO is the amount of light that you'd like to add onto your aperture. So if your aperture is 6.3,
which
it's a little
means
bit dark.
Allowing 6.3% or degrees.
6.3%, right? So if your aperture is this big, it could be, like an f10 or an f11.
Okay.
And the bigger it gets, the smaller the number it gets.
Right.
So 6.3 is, in between 2.8 and 11.
Okay.
So then you would just basically change your ISO either up or down, depending on how bright you want your photo or how dark you want your photo. So it basically gives you the amount of control of light to add to your aperture not giving you. It's a lot of information.
It is, but I think that's the key point to this, is that, and with myself, I've been straight autofocus now for a while. A lot of times we're in this situation where it's video and it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I have been trying to sort of progress, and I really need to kind of get my head around the characteristics of the 3 or 4 different classifications that there are. And I've noticed on a lot of your photography, particularly the purple finch that we had with the article that was in the home, the bird is absolute crisp, and then there's this blending of sort of, I don't know, blur is the right word, but out of focus. Clear sort of around it and behind it. And you were telling me the other day about a particular style. Is that what we...
So that would be depth of field.
Yeah, right.
So the smaller your aperture on your lens, the more creamier depth of field you're going to get.
That's a better word.
Creamy. We always like it to be smooth and creamy in the background.
Right.
Unless you're looking for what I think you're referring to as bokeh.
Bokeh, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So what happens is when, the bird is, say, here, and then you've got a tree here, and you're shooting from over here this way.
Yeah.
So if the tree is here, you're not going to get it in focus.
Correct.
Because you're focusing here. This depth of field here is what's going to be all creamy. So you want to be as close as possible to the bird, zoomed in all the way, And then you don't want anything in the background here because this will come at the focus, this over here will not.
Right.
Bokeh.
I even like the words.
It is, it's a fun word, yeah.
Yeah.
Is basically blurry shapes of light in the background.
Okay.
Sometimes people try to achieve that on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and some people just do it by accident and say,
And it
hey,
works.
look at my bokeh.
Yeah. And do you have examples of that anywhere on websites and stuff with any
Yes.
photography?
A lot of nighttime photography will get awesome bokeh.
Okay.
You can see it. There's some on my Instagram too. I'm a huge fan of it.
And
So
your
a lot of
Instagram
macro
account
stuff.
is j.mcneely photography.
Yeah, that's
And what's your website then?
same thing.
j.mcneely photography. So go ahead.